Firefighters were put on the defensive. Flames like those of a fire-breathing dragon shot out the back door. The intense heat actually had blown out the side of the house.
The whole wall, it's in the wall. It was just blowing out when we were up there. Yeah, it was just blowing out in the wall.
It's hot. It's extremely hot, and the heat wears on the man to start with. And when we was going in on the second floor there, you had extreme heat to start with.
Actually working today.
While one crew got some welcomed relief from the oppressive heat, others took their place.
These were among 84 firefighters called out to fight this stubborn 3-alarm fire.
While firefighters struggled, a retired Methodist minister could only shake his head in disbelief. His home of 20 years gone.
I just wish they'd get the darn thing out. Get all that smoke. Hello, Mary. Isn't that a mess?
Perry was alone in the house, ready to take a nap, when he smelled smoke. He went back to check and saw the curtains around the air conditioning window unit on fire. So he thinks it's to blame for all this. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. There is so much to see here among the limestone cliffs of Real County. A plant taxonomist at Southwest Junior College in Uvalde, Tony Keene, can identify just about anything growing here, so he knows there is something rare hidden among the bountiful growth. So rare, cages protect it from foragers.
Oh, yes, look at that. Oh, that little one is gorgeous.
Sounding like a proud papa, Keene has been up here tending 50 young Texas snowbells every week or so for the past 2 years. The seedlings were grown at the San Antonio Botanical Center. Then, with the cooperation of landowners, they were planted here and in Uvalde County in hopes of replenishing their native habitat.
God put these things here because he knows where they go best. So where us as a weak human being would decide to put a little Texas snowbell, and then be able to visualize that in 20 years, 25 years, what this hillside's going to look like with these snowbells covering it and growing out and blooming with the beautiful white flowers on there. And know that, well, future generations are going to have a chance to see a Texas snowbell and realize its beauty.
Besides preserving it for future generations, scientists may someday discover that there is more to the Texas snowbell than meets the eye.
That would be beautiful, you know, if a Texas snowbell, say, had they isolated a product that could be used in the care of man for a particular severe disease.
Keene and others are seeing to it that there will be enough Texas snowbells, not only for the sake of science, but for the delicate beauty of their blossoms in the spring. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. Archaeologists say prehistoric man lived along its banks. Historians say the Salado Creek was one of the first stops along the Camino Real, and it was the site of many battles, including one where Mexican soldiers tried to retake Texas.
Within feet of what has been called one of San Antonio's greatest natural resources is evidence that we are lacking in respect and knowledge of what is here.
A natural resource that unifies the community, that embodies not just an area to allow storm waters to pass, but has the multiple aspects for recreation, for outdoor education, and for just a general enhancement of overall quality of life.
An environmental planner, Watkins says he wants to see creative use of a natural floodplain. For instance, this is a landscape drainage canal that feeds into Salado Creek. He says there can be more of this type of balance between engineering and environmental conservation.
You can not only accommodate the city's overall desire to accommodate stormwater and to eliminate flooding problems where there are hazards for health or housing, but also to provide a natural thread of open space or green belts through the city.
That is why Watkins is actively involved in the Salado Creek Foundation.
We formulated a group that was really dedicated to preserving the quality of life and the natural resources along the creek itself.
He says it's a voice for its varied interests, coordinating solutions affecting the parks, neighborhoods, and businesses that line Salado Creek, as well as the natural setting it's had for centuries.
It really is a complement to urban form. It's the balancing factor between what is developed and what is undeveloped. And to me, they work hand in hand. And when you have that kind of a marriage, you have a much more livable city.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. It is one of the neighborhood's most distinctive features, a multi-million-dollar plant conservatory enclosed in glass. But when these giant greenhouses went up more than 2 years ago, they became tempting targets.
Most breaks don't go through the second layer of the glass. It's got a plastic lamination in the middle of it.
They say vandals have caused more than $50,000 in damages. Although they say there hasn't been any broken glass since a security guard was hired in November, the Botanical Society wants to create a green belt here as a buffer zone. The idea would be to close off Funston, angle it over to the next street, build a fence around the entire property, and line it with foliage. But the center's acting director isn't sure it's the best idea. How is that supposed to help?
Well, I guess it'll move the front back and give them another obstacle to cross.
The Society's chairman says these are slum units, and a green belt could add value to the neighborhood. 12 of these duplexes have been turned over to the city by the Botanical Center, and 7 more must be acquired, but it may not be easy.
We just bought the place, and I'd like to stay here for a while, a long while.
If it comes to court and whatever, you know, I don't think they're going to have a fighting chance if they stick together as a group.
And they say it may have to come to that. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. They are part of the scenery, especially on a weekend. A mall isn't a mall without young people. Except here, security officers were stopping groups of them who didn't appear to be buying anything, taking their names, addresses, and then photographing them.
And their only crime was hanging out at the mall, shopping, window shopping.
Her 13-year-old daughter, Mona, is still embarrassed and upset. She and her 15-year-old best friend were going to the movies, talking with 2 other girls when a security officer asked them to leave.
They stopped us and they told us that they had to take some information and our pictures. And I guess that was wrong because we weren't doing anything, we were just sitting around there.
Her parents say security officers are supposed to protect people.
Porque realmente están haciendo lo contrario, están asustando a las niñas.
She says really they're doing the contrary. They're scaring the girls.
I couldn't stand for it. And I needed those pictures, and I needed the negatives, and I wanted all the information taken from my daughter to be destroyed.
Because of the negative reaction of parents, the mall has changed its picture-taking policy.
We'll wait until there's sufficient cause for an actual arrest, or if we need to call the parents to come and get the kids if they've really caused a serious problem.
He also destroyed the film he says was shot yesterday. The policy was supposed to discourage troublemakers.
We felt that the problem was large enough that we had to take action to contact as many people as we could to let them know that we have to exert our control in the interest of public safety and the interest of our business interests.
But mall management apparently realized it risked scaring away innocent kids who didn't want to be hassled and alienating their parents from shopping here. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. The huge storage tanks sit just inside Loop 410 off of East Houston, in one of the city's most heavily traveled and populated areas, within blocks of schools, businesses, and homes. Although emergency personnel would aid in an evacuation, community organizers say knowing where to go would help avoid panic if they had to leave immediately.
That's the main thing, because people are hurt when they are panicked and don't know what to do or where to go.
East Houston to W.W. White would be the main evacuation route. Now only 2 lanes, preliminary work has begun on a project to widen it to 5 lanes. In an emergency, it would become one-way headed west. But they still are concerned about this neighborhood with East Houston as its only way out.
As it is now, they all have to come out and come up to Houston Street and come out. And they're saying, what happens if everybody gets jammed up in there and can't get out?
The plan is to build a bridge over this drainage ditch over to that neighborhood, giving the people on this side another way to get out to W.W. White Road.
But the city must find the money first. Unlike the East Houston project that already was covered in a bond issue and was speeded up in response to community concerns.
Rascal, hey, what do you think, Rascal? And he came in, somebody had been raising him, they had found him out at the landfill.
Rascal is among the more than 30 injured or abandoned animals, most of them fawns, that Cynthia Cornelius is rehabilitating in hopes of releasing them back to the wild. That's the name of her organization.
Working out of her home in a small enclosed area, Cornelius says she knows it's only a matter of time before she'll have to move all her animals. Although she says Back to the Wild is state licensed, she realizes the city could enforce its ban of keeping wild animals within city limits. So far, she says, there have been no complaints.
But the more animals I have, of course, the more apt one of them's going to get out. The more animals I have, the more of a smell there might end up being. And for the animals' best benefit, I'd do better to be out so they could have more room and more natural habitat-like areas.
She is looking for the land and financial resources it would take to preferably open a refuge in southern Bexar County. The sooner, the better.
I hope that I don't have to close my door eventually. Because there's little guys like these that need somebody to help them.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Well, I didn't know what to do. My parents, I felt neglected. So that's why I left.
There were a lot of problems at home. I didn't get along with my parents. I was doing drugs. I just didn't want to be there.
I couldn't keep up with school. Things weren't going so well at the house. I was having family problems, and I decided to run away.
My mom would, physically abuse us. So I ran away when I turned 15, I started running away.
For kids like these, running away now is more a symptom of deeper problems.
Your conclusion can sometimes go back up to your introduction, all right?
These students also stay here at The Bridge. Run by Youth Alternatives, it is the only emergency shelter for runaways in San Antonio.
We see children come from very abusive situations, physically, sexually, very neglectful situations where, they just aren't being cared for.
Besides the trauma they now see more of among those here, Youth Alternatives Executive Director says kids are running away at a much younger age, like an 8-year-old they believe had been sexually abused and who was at the shelter last Christmas.
She had a real sad look on her face, and she said Santa died 3 years ago. And kind of went into withdrawal at that point, went and laid on the floor and kind of curled up and kind of withdrew.
The director of the Downtown Youth Drop-In Center has her own horror stories, like the one involving a 13-year-old runaway.
She got sick and tired of coming home and seeing Mama having sexual relations with her boyfriend in the living room while the other kids are watching TV in the same room.
Many of those who choose to hang out here are the more fortunate ones. They can get counseling, enroll in high school equivalency classes here, and sometimes get clothes. It's a safe place away from the drugs, prostitution, and other criminal activity on the streets. The risks, many still choose over life at home.
For the most part, when kids run away, it seems like they're just looking for something better or what they think might be better.
Especially these days when they say more and more runaways are considered by parents as throwaways.
I'd call them and say, hey, we've got your child, and they say, hey, I don't have a child anymore, they're your problem, and they hang up the phone.
They've been running since day one just about. They have never had a solid home situation. They have never been wanted. They have never been loved. They have never been nurtured.
She says many are from broken homes, from frustrated single parents, some trying to make ends meet or not trying at all, where often drugs are involved, many ill-prepared to raise a family. Yet there still are parents like Carol Talby, whose son Sean was a chronic runaway.
He was running to his addiction. He was running to alcohol and drugs.
His father a banker, his mother a businesswoman. She says they tried to provide the best for their son, spent a small fortune on 7 drug rehab centers, and still he kept running away.
He stayed up a lot of nights. And you pray and you call people and you hunt for him, and but there's nothing you can do. There's no way you can stop him.
Finally, a few months ago, she went looking for him again.
I knew of some places where he'd been staying, and I went there to find him, and he had hung himself.
A tragic ending, sadly not uncommon among runaways. Tomorrow, you'll meet some of those who have found their way home because of places like the bridge, and you'll meet some of the others who are still out there. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
It didn't solve any of my problems, but just made them worse.
Anna ran away at 16 because she says she felt neglected. She stayed away because she thought her stepfather might put her in a foster home.
I went back home because I got tired, and I wanted to go back home, see if things would get better.
She came back with a baby to escape life with her street friends.
I knew that they'd get me in trouble, and I'd be in a worse position than what I was.
I'd hang around with them like 14, 15, 16, and I'd party with them. And then I didn't like the fact that they wanted me in at a certain time, and I wanted to be out all night.
Joe says he wanted to be like his friends in the courts. That's why he ran away at 11. Now 16, he lives with his girlfriend, who also was a runaway, and her baby, with another on the way. Joe, who says he's been in trouble with the law, remembers what it was like after he left home.
I'd party and everything, and I'd get all messed up, and then I'd sit down and think, what am I doing here?
Far removed from life in the courts, affluent and educated, Susan at 13 ran away last year because she says her parents couldn't handle her drinking and doing drugs, and she couldn't handle the high expectations everyone had for her, so she took off with friends.
For life, and being 13 at the time. What's there for me to do, you know? Couldn't get a job, prostitution. That's about all I had to look forward to, prostitution and dealing.
The freedom she thought she wanted was short-lived. On the way back to San Antonio, she says, to sell some cocaine, they were arrested. Now she's in a drug treatment program and back home.
I feel so much older. I mean, I almost feel like I missed a lot of my childhood. I have a lot of resentment about it and a lot of regrets.
They want to grow up so fast. They do, and that hurts them, and that hurts a parent too.
Living with her father at the time in Dallas because of friction with her mother, this teenager saw the kind of life her friends had.
Their parents let them do anything they want. They bought all this expensive clothes. The parents let them drive their own cars and go cruising and go out and come home whenever they want. And I said, that's what I want. That sounds like fun. They all ran away, and they all had a chance to run away, and I was the only one that didn't.
So she did, only to come back because she said she had no money and missed her family, but she had changed.
She wasn't my little girl anymore. She was, she looked so grown up, and very bitter. Like if she was on her own, and she's not, because she's only 15 years old.
Fortunately, they sought counseling at Youth Alternatives and now are starting over, unlike many other families who may never have that chance. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
How old is he? What is his last name?
This is how it begins. A parent calls the Youth Bureau at Missing Persons, one of 400 to 600 a month reporting runaways to police. Since many have run away before, they check for any record.
He was in juvenile for runaway. His mom picked him up, took him home, and he ran away again.
He comes from a broken family, mother only. And then he's only got one, which is surprising.
Although many times they come back or their parents find them, the information is dispatched to police officers throughout the city.
Juvenile females. Runaways? Yes, sir, runaways. Both of them? Both of them have been reported.
If they're found, they're brought here to the Bexar County Juvenile Detention Center, where maybe someone will come for them right away. Since many of these other juveniles are in for crimes committed, by law, runaways can spend only a brief time here. They spend a night, maybe two, in a room like this before being placed, possibly with their parents, or at the only emergency shelter in San Antonio for juveniles, at the Bridge.
Remember, all your sentences have to have periods. So what's missing there?
They can attend school and get counseling while they stay at the Bridge a few weeks. Run by Youth Alternatives, the shelter is nearly always full and then some.
We have times when our shelter is full and we have to go over what we're licensed capacity for, just not to close our doors on a child, that the police is standing there with no place else to go.
And the agency's director says this is only a temporary solution.
They don't have a chance. They need to stay out of that environment probably until they're adults, and the system isn't set up to do that. It's very expensive to keep a kid in our program or any other program for more than 6 months or a year.
Marva Crisp has a shocking example of a 16-year-old who'd been sexually abused by first her father, then her mother's boyfriends.
She was allowed to go back with the mother. This boyfriend abused her again. And this little child right now exhibits 3 different personalities.
Stories like those and others raise serious questions about the system.
I feel like it's very ineffective. I think the police have an impossible job. They pick up a kid, they do a ton of paperwork, then they have no place to put the kid. If they do get them into a program, it's a very short period of time they have to be out of that program.
I think the system is doing the best it can for what it has to work with, but the system is on overload.
We wind up placing our resources for those children that are deep into the system. So perhaps we're not the ones that need to be dealing with them for the solution.
But the problem, they say, is the funding isn't there for long-term solutions like early intervention programs that also could teach parenting skills.
Texas has one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates, so you have babies having babies, and people just are not prepared for the responsibility of children.
Because as it looks now, they say society is in store for a psychologically scarred generation.
What they're experiencing in this day and time, there's no way that they can grow up and be totally normal, functional, contributing, productive citizens. This is our future. We're basically throwing our kids away. It's as simple as that because the numbers are staggering.
I thought it was bad 5 years ago, and it's significantly worse now, and all indications are that it's going to probably be close to intolerable in another 5 years from now.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
How old is he? What is his last name?
This is how it begins. A parent calls the Youth Bureau at Missing Persons, one of 400 to 600 a month reporting runaways to police. Since many have run away before, they check for any record.
He was in juvenile for runaway. His mom picked him up, took him home, and he ran away again.
Although many times they come back or their parents find them, the information is dispatched to police officers throughout the city.
Juvenile females. Runaways? Yes, sir, runaways. Both of them? Both of them have been reported.
If they're found, they're brought here to the Bexar County Juvenile Detention Center, where maybe someone will come for them right away. Since many of these other juveniles are in for crimes committed, by law, runaways can spend only a brief time here. They spend a night, maybe two, in a room like this before being placed, possibly with their parents, or at the only emergency shelter in San Antonio for juveniles, at the Bridge.
Remember, all your sentences have to have periods. So what's missing there?
They can attend school and get counseling while they stay at the Bridge a few weeks. Run by Youth Alternatives, the shelter is nearly always full and then some.
We have times when our shelter is full and we have to go over what we're licensed capacity for, just not to close our doors on a child, that the police is standing there with no place else to go.
Marva Crisp has a shocking example of a 16-year-old who'd been sexually abused by first her father, then her mother's boyfriends.
She was allowed to go back with the mother. This boyfriend abused her again. And this little child right now exhibits 3 different personalities.
Stories like those and others raise serious questions about the system.
I feel like it's very ineffective. I think the police have an impossible job. They pick up a kid, they do a ton of paperwork, then they have no place to put the kid. If they do get them into a program, it's a very short period of time they have to be out of that program.
But the problem, they say, is the funding isn't there for long-term solutions like early intervention programs that also could teach parenting skills.
Texas has one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates, so you have babies having babies, and people just are not prepared for the responsibility of children.
Because as it looks now, they say society is in store for a psychologically scarred generation.
What they're experiencing in this day and time, there's no way that they can grow up and be totally normal, functional, contributing, productive citizens. This is our future. We're basically throwing our kids away. It's as simple as that because the numbers are staggering.
I thought it was bad 5 years ago, and it's significantly worse now, and all indications are that it's going to probably be close to intolerable in another 5 years from now.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. Weeks of readying their equipment, painting it all desert sand, the 238th Maintenance Company out of San Antonio and the half dozen or so other Texas Army Reserve units now at Fort Hood have been preparing for this day.
Anytime you take a company of this size in addition to 5 other companies of similar sizes and with such a tremendous amount of equipment, and then to actually railroad this stuff in just in a matter of a day or so, that's a logistical feat.
They represent great Americans, citizen soldiers that are hardworking, dedicated professionals serving their country extremely well.
They say this convoy just reinforces what they've known all along, that this is not a training exercise.
Especially today, this is one of the main things that we had to do is get the equipment ready to ship it out, and it's starting to hit pretty well now.
Okay, come on, let's get this right now. They gonna leave it here? Leave it right here?
They are among more than 200 San Antonio men and women who were civilians up until 3 weeks ago. Now they face the prospect of war.
Ready to go, sir? If everything works out, it will be better for us, but we have to go, we're ready to go.
It's an adjustment their families back home are having to make as well.
My parents are handling it pretty well so far. Then again, I'm just in Fort Hood right now.
In about 3 weeks, though, once their equipment is nearing Saudi Arabia by ship, they'll be next, flying overseas, knowing this is the real thing. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News at Fort Hood. An empty, flag-draped coffin was used in what was called a funeral of forewarning.
We realize that this is a very strong, very concrete reminder, though, of what's at our footstep. And we feel like we want to put that before the community as an alarm to go off and say, pray with us now, pray with us strongly. This is what is at our doorstep.
O Lord, deliver us from fear and distrust of other nations.
The interdenominational prayer service began in this West Side parish.
I am here today because praying for peace is a way of admitting our fears, frustrations, and yes, even our anger before our God.
They also heard from those with family stationed in Saudi Arabia, like this woman's son.
Brian's been told he's on his way to Saudi Arabia to put his life on the line because the vital interests and national security of the United States are at stake. He does not believe they are.
Still, his duty will be to guard any Iraqi POWs.
I hate to see them have to die for a cause that is not well defined.
¿Estaría de acuerdo usted cambiar sangre por petróleo?
She asks, would you agree that blood should be shed for oil? A 200-car processional would go on to other parts of the city to show what they see as the alternative to a peaceful, nonviolent solution in the Mideast.
Those we spoke to here at Trinity Baptist say there is nothing unpatriotic about praying for peace, even in a military community like San Antonio.
Oh, no, I'm very supportive, but we do not want any bloodshed. I don't think it's unpatriotic to want peace. No, not at all.
Obviously, we need to do what we need to do to protect, the U.S.'s rights and so forth, but you just don't ever want to see anybody have to go to war if it's not necessary.
The most patriotic thing we can do is contribute to peace and to pray for peace.
In the morning worship service, he reminded the congregation why they should pray for peace.
What do we think war is? It is not a high school football game on Friday night. You don't go out and play war during the day and then go out and have a party and eat dinner that night. People get killed and come home in body bags.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Doris Ivey, he was from Florida. He was my best friend. I guess we served together in Fort Riley, and we were on a train fire committee where we were teaching marksmanship. And we went to Vietnam the same time as advisors.
Ernest Garza met his friend on his first Vietnam tour in 1965. He lost many other buddies when he went back for 2 more tours, one with the 101st Airborne.
For a while, there were so many that, I told my wife, the only one I looked up on the wall was Ivy, because he was the closest friend I had. The other ones are there. I know they're there. I'll still remember them.
There.
I had him deal. Yeah, his name's back in that area right now. I haven't gone to get his done yet.
Etching their names on paper as keepsakes, they came to remember and perhaps teach others about all those who had paid the ultimate price in an unpopular war, the longest in American history.
Some would say the wall's greatest effect, it changed how many felt about those who must fight and die in any war.
With time, the wall, people realizing we weren't at fault. We just followed orders. We were there because our country asked us to be there.
That's why Armando Albarran, who was 19 when he lost his legs to a landmine, says now there is support for troops in the Persian Gulf.
Even though people do not generally support the present conflict, they do support the troops.
I wouldn't want to go back to war, and I don't wish war on anybody, but sometimes that's what our freedom is all about. Somebody's willing to put their life on the line for it.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. The giant transports like the C-5 that carry troops and supplies, the mammoth B-52s that have carpet-bombed areas of Iraq, stopped here first for routine but extensive maintenance. Even before World War II, thousands of planes have come here to be stripped, inspected, retrofitted, and repaired by civilian workers.
They say in the last 6 months, the workload here has gone from a typical 8-hour day to a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation.
It's really an awesome display of logistical support on the parts of the folks here, the craftsmen here at Kelly. Probably some of the finest workers in the world that I've ever encountered. The patriotism is running very high, the dedication is very strong, professionalism is absolutely outstanding.
Many have volunteered who would like to perform their duties overseas if required. Many are voluntarily working extra hours. Just a great deal of enthusiasm among the entire workforce, a lot of patriotism.
Evidence of their patriotism is proudly displayed in the workplace. After all, many of the 2,300 technicians here have a personal stake in the war effort.
A lot of these folks have people that are serving there that are family or that are friends that are workers, co-workers from here. So there's lots of professionalism, lots of pride going on right now at this aircraft division.
He says they know that every part that is overhauled or manufactured here, every F-15 or F-16 engine they work on, affects the missions in Desert Storm.
I guess the most rewarding thing is that when we see the airplanes do a complete mission, to us it means that we've done our job well.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. The rushing water that's pumped into the channels, its twists and turns, are what make this ride. That and the fact you will get wet, something this man's wife wasn't willing to do.
She didn't want to get wet. I said, on a hot day like today, that's perfect.
Russell and a couple from Matamoros were the lucky SeaWorld visitors to get a sneak preview of Rio Loco.
This ride kind of sneaks up on you. It kind of starts you off kind of slow down the river, and then you reach an area where it really kind of really slows you down. But from that point on, you're spinning, you're twisting, you're turning, and before you know it, you hit the waterfalls, and then you're drenched.
Sure enough, Saul Quintero and Diana Melendez got drenched during the 4 to 5.5 minute long ride. The water in Rio Loco comes from the ski lake and is recirculated daily between the two. So there's a steady supply of water to refresh you, and you can ride the Rio Loco as many times as you like as part of your admission to SeaWorld. What a way to cool off.
I think there's a dry spot on your shirt there.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. Magnificent hand-carved objects provide a sense of the culture and beliefs of the great Olmec, Toltec, and Aztec civilizations that created Mexico. It is the first time a national exhibition of this magnitude has been in this area of the U.S. exclusively, appropriately enough in San Antonio with its strong historical and cultural ties with Mexico.
It does cover, using the finest examples I have seen, it covers a period of 3,000 years, going from the earliest pre-Columbian, the Olmec, all the way through the Spanish colonial, which is probably the least known area in the exhibition.
This breathtaking retablo or altar portraying the sorrows of the Virgin, her heart pierced with a dagger, the intricate work of an Indian woodcarver on this choir stall show the melding of an ancient people with a new Spain and its Christianity. Details of the exhibition, that also includes 19th and 20th century works, are given on audio tapes available to visitors. Among the first of at least 250,000 visitors will be Mexican President Carlos Salinas de Gortari, who they say finally will be able to see as much as he can of this massive exhibition. He only got a glimpse when it opened at the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. Friday, he'll have less than an hour. San Antonians and visitors from Mexico and elsewhere will have 4 months to see the splendors of Mexico time and time again. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
When I shut the well down back there, I had no choice but to quickly establish a water supply.
This is what Jim Lopez ended up doing for his elderly mother. He's buying water and filling the swimming pool that acts as an above-ground well. Now low, algae, spiders, leaves, and other debris are thankfully filtered out, and the water is chlorinated. Now covered with junk, the well that was here was closed 3 months ago because they say the water had gotten so bad it was blood red in color, and when you showered with it, it left your skin slimy.
1991, we're approaching the year 2000. Here we are in a beautiful community. This community is beautiful. All it lacks is water. And I got to tell you that it's basically because they fear the authorities, they fear the agencies, they fear the elected officials. They won't speak out, or they haven't in the past, but I can tell you they're angry now because they realize that the only way that they can really get a solution to the problem is by fighting.
Negligence on the part of everyone, it's passing the buck, placing blame elsewhere, and the blame belongs to all of us.
As both House members and senators.
So Rodriguez organized public hearings so residents could find out why $250,000 in federal money approved a year ago was never spent for at least a small section of water mains. They would hear it was because federal guidelines conflicted with City Water Board rules about paying for the job up front. The City Water Board now has changed its mind.
We will be providing the initial funds, if necessary, to get the construction started before HUD funds are available.
That's approximately 50.
Community leaders say they still have a long way to go because the City Water Board's offer affects only 125 of the 485 homes needing water. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Jessie Degollado says the congressman got an earful.
I don't know why. They'll always go to public housing to take it away from public housing.
A veteran of many a budget battle, the congressman told the standing room only crowd more is being spent on nuclear defense weapons against the Soviet Union, even though he says it's not the enemy it once was.
And yet, right now, every taxpayer in America is paying $70 billion a year, which amounts to more than $1 billion a week. That shows you where our priorities are. It's irrationality.
But at least he seemed to lend a sympathetic ear to ideas like professional counseling at the courts for victims of domestic violence.
Children have seen murders, stabbings, everything. You name it, they've seen it. This must have a negative impact on them like it has on me.
Finally, I think we're getting the program working for us.
Earlier, the congressman's staff had toured the courts, looking at how federal funds are being spent. These units are the next due for remodeling.
Residents say although there have been some improvements like these modernized units, those changes have been slow in coming.
When we ask for something, we want to get it. And of course, sometimes the money comes in very slow and we don't get to see what we are striving for.
Some residents say things have quieted down with all the attention Alasan Apache has received.
Just to let the residents know that they're not alone here. You know, they got a very good security here, and they're just trying their best. They're just doing their job.
If anything, pressure on the housing authority has resulted in weeds being cut and vacant units being boarded up. As one resident put it, the courts have gotten a crew cut. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Welcome back. Good to see you.
Living a dramatically altered existence in a world foreign to them for the past 6 months, the 238th Maintenance Company of Reservists came home, and the welcome offered by Army brass was only a prelude of what was to come.
Bring those buses in!
Met by cheers from waiting family and friends, it wasn't long before military pomp gave way to what they'd all been waiting for. At moments like this, homecomings are anything but routine for these families.
Did you ever think this day would ever get here?
No, I never believed it till just we got off the plane. I finally said we're home, and I'm happy.
What was it like over there?
Lonely. Very lonely.
They will tell their families of the Scud attacks on their remote desert outpost on the Saudi Arabian-Kuwaiti border, where their jobs were to maintain Humvees, the latest Army off-road vehicle, and they will describe another way of life.
It is a culture shock if you haven't been there, all the way from the drivers to their prayer time 5 times a day where they'll just shut down everything and all operations stop.
For many of those who now held them so tightly, their lives had proven difficult in other ways.
Things didn't go right for me. Everything was breaking down. They're breaking into my car, and everything went bad for me. But now I'm glad he's home.
They were each, in their own way, very glad to be home.
They'll get to spend the long 4th of July weekend with their families, and then they'll be back here Sunday to begin the week-long transition back to civilian life. At Fort Hood, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Along with its culture, our climate is one of San Antonio's biggest assets. It helps fill hotels, and it's why many of us believe this is a great place to live, even in the summertime. The weather is also a factor in the quality of our air. It's a vacuum cleaner of sorts. The Texas Air Control Board uses it to catch particles like dust and pollen.
I don't mean to scare anybody with this kind of, this is what's in the air every day.
This is why allergies are a way of life here.
Actually, the experts say San Antonio is among the few urban centers that usually meets federal air quality standards.
We have a continual sampling of the air. The information is collected each second and stored in our computer.
On the second and up to the hour, our air quality is monitored at stations like this one that checks ozone levels. Unlike the thin layer of ozone in the atmosphere that shields us from the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays, ozone here on Earth is considered a pollutant. Ozone is created when hydrocarbons in exhaust fumes react with the sun, so its level rises on hot, clear days. With no real heavy industry here, our sheer numbers on our streets and highways are the major source of any air pollution. So repairing exhaust problems can help reduce what's out there. In fact, air quality experts say the increase of vehicles on the road here is offset by the use of catalytic converters. They say what also helps are the strong breezes, free of the physical obstructions that can trap airflow. But until they blow away or dissipate what's in the air, pollutants pose a health risk.
I went 12 minutes, which is quite a lot.
Anyone with a respiratory problem like Grant Krombach, who suffers from lung disease, knows when the pollution levels are up. Dependent on his oxygen supply, his condition is aggravated by, among other things, exhaust fumes, so he knows to go indoors during rush hour.
You become a very fast learner when you get out here and you lose your breath and you are ready to fall down. You don't make the same mistake twice. If it's at 4 and something blew down the street, then at 4 tomorrow, you're not going to be here.
He and others like him are a dramatic example of how important it is that our air be breathable. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. Just as Comal Springs and its ecosystem depend on its underground waters, the Edwards Aquifer sustains life in a 6-county area, including the nation's 9th largest city.
The Edwards Aquifer is simply one of the great aquifers on the planet, and there is no concern that pumping need ever be limited, that it will not supply 4 times the population of San Antonio.
There's no other source of water. We've got to treat it like the resource that it is. It is the reason San Antonio is here, and we can't afford to take it for granted.
Accidents like this do happen. The 1986 train derailment, its chemical cloud ominously rising from the smoke and fire. A year earlier, another derailment, spilling sulfuric acid into the Medina River. None have occurred over the Edwards Aquifer yet.
But there's still a lot of transport of hazardous and toxic materials across the recharge zone in trucks and in pipelines. And we must be cautious about that and be ready to respond to any accidents.
One of the city's busiest intersections back in 1983 was still mostly undeveloped. A new gasoline station that has since changed ownership was being put in when it was discovered 10,000 gallons of gasoline had disappeared from an underground storage tank.
Initially, it was thought that it was stolen, but we found out very soon thereafter that, in fact, all of that gasoline had leaked out of the tank and into the ground.
Dangerously close to the recharge zone where water seeps into the aquifer. Areas that border it were declared transition zones as a result of what happened here.
In this area, the geology is very complex, and liquids and contaminants that are lost underground are very difficult to track and recover.
They were able to recover only 400 of the 10,000 gallons that were lost. And they say even now they're still finding small traces of the gasoline in 2 Edwards wells near here.
Our worst nightmare is that if we contaminate large parts of the Edwards Aquifer, to date we have not had that problem.
The Edwards District and state authorities try to closely monitor development and use of the land over the aquifer and the areas that surround it. Good water quality also is a mandate for that which is being returned to nature outside the aquifer, especially when it is used for this. The Dos Rios sewage treatment plant opened in 1987 in the wake of heavy federal fines levied against the city. This had the large-scale capacity that was lacking at the old plant.
We're still using an activated sludge process. We're still finishing off the treatment with sand filters, and then we're chlorinating the effluent as it leaves the plant.
That's why the effluent is checked on an hourly basis. The operation here is supposed to ensure we do not violate strict federal requirements or the laws of nature. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
This is an indication. This is coming straight from the sprinkling here.
Remember this? The city's water police on patrol, tracking down water wasters. Less than a year ago, we faced not only a rapidly falling level of the Edwards Aquifer, but the threat of it falling under government control in order to save federally protected marine life in Comal Springs.
It's up to us as to whether or not we want to maintain local control of our sole source of water.
Then it rained, the very day mandatory water conservation was to take effect. It was as if Mother Nature had brought us to the brink in hopes we'd learn a lesson.
We do know that the lesson of 1990 stuck with many people. And every time we go through something like that, more people remember, more people change their habits.
They've taken years and years of research to get this thing to get this type of flushing action.
It's a ULF commode, ultra-low flush. Last year's drought prompted the city of Castle Hills to require these in all new construction. The same will be true next year in San Antonio. They use only a little over 1.5 gallons of water per flush. Now for the high-tech version of the ultra-low flush commode. Wait till you see this. You'd swear it had a Honda engine in it. Although this one is loud and expensive, almost $700, it too uses less water than the 5 to 7 gallons of standard commodes and the 3 to 5 gallons of other water-saver models. It's hoped this and other measures will go a long way to making water conservation a way of life, drought or no drought.
And that means treating every drop as if it were the last. I mean, let's not squander what we have. Let's treat this resource for what it is, a valuable resource. It's much more valuable than the water bill you get in the mail every month.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. If you've never been to a landfill, it's an eye-opener. The volume brought here is immense, 32 to 3,500 tons per day, a reported 100% increase over last year. You'll see a continuous line of cars and trucks bringing trash that's not hauled off by garbage trucks.
It's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere.
The problem is, though, they're running out of room here.
When it opened in 1983, the Nelson Gardens landfill was supposed to last 25 to 30 years. Instead, they say it'll be at capacity in another 12 to 13 months. Those who run the city landfill on the south side say they have 50 acres left.
And although there is a privately owned landfill in East Bexar County, this one carries most of the ever-increasing burden. To buy time, maybe another 3 to 4 years of use, the City Council will have to decide soon on whether to amend its permit so that the landfill can go up perhaps another 200 feet. Or it could decide to look for another site, which would take longer to do, 4 to 5 years. And that's if no one is opposed to having one built near them. As it is, Southside residents have been fighting 2 private landfill sites that are acquiring permits.
I think that what people don't understand is that there will always be a need for a landfill. I mean, even if we recycle 100% mandatory, even if there was some type of burning.
Yet they say recycling eventually does add to a landfill's longevity, perhaps postponing the need for others. That's why this family takes the time to set aside its recyclable items.
I believe this recycling program is a very good thing for the city to save space in the landfill.
They say it's likely the city's 2 pilot programs involving more than 16,000 homes will continue. So far, the bulk, 72%, has been newspapers that go onto a plant in Arizona to be recycled as products like paper towels. Judging by the response, what began as a trend is catching on to become a way of life, an alternative to throwing away what can be used again and again. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. Storm drainage channels are a necessity in our city, but the construction of this one in the Northwood subdivision near the airport sparked a controversy.
Not just in terms of the expense of building it, but in the cost of losing a lot of the centuries-old live oaks which used to line the banks of the creek here. The aesthetic of the finish of the concrete and working around a choice handful of the trees was the compromise that was struck, and to me it's not a win-win, it's a win-lose.
Now look at this drainage channel designed by Watkins for the developers of Oakwell Farms. It takes runoff into Salado Creek.
As long as our engineering's correct and our, hydraulics work and everything works all right, then we're going to keep trying to do it wherever we can.
But when channels are built, like this one off of Nacogdoches, they can send torrents of water and sediment downstream into the channels that were environmentally designed.
Those 2 things are at odds with each other, and try to maintain the 2 is a real struggle. It's an ongoing problem. The die is almost cast for you to follow suit with those people upstream and downstream, because you're always going to be faced with problems in trying to maintain it in a natural state. It's just working against you.
To try to change that, City Council unanimously adopted an open space plan, the first step toward more environmentally sensitive land use whenever possible. The earlier the planning takes that into account, Watkins says it's easier to hold down project costs. The open space plan first calls for an inventory of properties that would lend themselves to a softer approach to development, or even for our enjoyment.
I think that the wisdom of providing conservation strategies so we can begin to put together open space systems now is critical, because we're just simply not doing it.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
This one's probably a little more difficult to kill because he's got to really get under there and try to get the bees off that swing set.
They took turns spraying the tamer European cousins of the feared Africanized honeybees, not with a highly toxic pesticide, but with a simple soapy solution of Dawn dishwashing liquid and water. The effect was just as deadly. It melts away their waxy coating, drowning them. They say since eradicating killer bees is impossible, promoting public awareness, like at this seminar, is our first line of defense. For instance, they look almost like any other honeybee, so the best advice, especially for the elderly and children, is to avoid any bee swarm. But if you stumble on them, they say you should run as fast as you can because they will follow you.
Run in a zigzag pattern, try to get cover in a home or a car. If there is a body of water available, jump into the water try to get wet.
They say perhaps one of the most damaging effects of the Africanized honeybee will be the economic impact it will have on the honeybee and agriculture industries in Texas.
We're going to see it the most is going to be with a small beekeeper that is not going to be willing to do the work that is going to be required, is not going to be able to spend the kind of money that is going to be necessary to maintain his colonies European, and they're just going to leave the business.
That will affect farmers whose crops depend on honeybees for pollination, especially if larger colonies become Africanized. Already 3 to 4 swarms of killer bees a week have been spotted in the Rio Grande Valley, thousands preceding the millions still to come. But they say even after the first killer bees arrive here, it will be a long time before this area is fully populated.
So there is no need for panic, when people first detect an Africanized swarm here.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. A tourist attraction at Land O'Lake has become a temporary laboratory of sorts for some biology students from Southwest Texas State University.
Yeah, these are all my old polishes. Avon, 50 cents a piece.
Graduate student Melanie Skalberg says her polish won't harm the ram's horn snails, the objects of her graduate thesis. She says 2 to 3 million of the culprits multiply uncontrollably and ravenously feed on the underwater vegetation. That's the habitat of the endangered fountain darter.
And when they lose that habitat, when they lose that vegetation, then they've lost the protection, and so they're easily accessible to predators.
And she says there could be even more of these because of the increasing demand on the Edwards Aquifer that supplies Land O'Lake.
We suspect, just by observations, that marissa populations do increase in shallower waters.
They believe the more they know about the ram's horn snail, the more they'll be able to learn about how to control its population.
Okay, I think you have all salmon here.
The snails that were marked are placed in designated areas that will be monitored regularly.
We're able to keep a tab on them almost, so we'll know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and we can get them when we want to get them out of the river.
Sounds of worship and praise filled the auditorium of Jefferson Davis Middle School. It was arranged by a deacon of Mount Sinai Baptist Church who is with the San Antonio Independent School District.
We love and Father that we are not in our own sanctuary this morning, but Father, you able us to be here.
They are grateful for their lives after what happened last week. If the service last week had not been postponed, many of the elderly and younger church members who normally sat here would have been buried under the debris.
I'm sure that we would have lost lives of about 25 to 30 people or more.
Members say another blessing is how they've been united by what happened.
And we know now that in order to make this thing work, we're going to have to work closer together as one body.
Where they worship, they say, is not important.
Because if it wasn't for us, the pews and the chairs and things, they'll just be sitting there. But we are the one that, we are the church.
Once the repairs are complete, Mount Sinai's congregation could be back at its church home in about 3 months. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. They say it wasn't until this sign went up last Friday that they found out about it. They'd gathered outside after they'd delivered their final loads in a sort of informal protest.
We're protesting because they want to close down this place here where we throw the trash, and I don't think that's fair to us.
Up to now, Bexar County residents, at least 50 vehicles a day, have dropped off their garbage here, free. But it has cost the county $5,000 a month to man the waste transfer station and haul off the garbage nearby to the city's Nelson Gardens landfill. And that's where county residents now will have to pay more than $16 a ton.
I don't think they ever even asked the county residents if they'd be interested in paying, because I would be more than happy to pay a regular fee to dump here.
Bexar County residents say besides what they'll have to pay here, they'll also have to contend with this kind of heavy traffic at the city landfill.
Not only that, if the city is not granted its permit to enlarge its landfill, it will have to close next summer. The cost and the congestion here, they say, will force many to risk being fined.
They're putting this poor people dump on the roads, I guess, now. Yeah.
There's going to be more trash on the side of the roads that they're going to have to pick up than what they got now. And it ain't worth closing it because they're going to spend more money picking up all the trash.
Many say that may be their only option because burning trash at their homes is too dangerous.
If they don't have a place to throw their trash, they'll probably throw it right there on the street, on the road. And I don't think that would look pretty for the county.
Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Jessie Degollado wanted to try out, but chickened out and decided to do this story instead.
So watch close now, but remember, don't try this at home, because I'm a professional. Hit the music, Doctor.
Who needs Jane Fonda when you can do Tiny Mac aerobics? A native of San Antonio, Tiny Mac is one of the professional comics trying out, who believes people these days need to laugh more.
A little more at ourselves and maybe each other sometimes. Be a lot less trouble, I think.
Sweet it is!
They say in this business you never know who in the crowd might be a hidden comic.
So he goes to this lady's house.
Our show is very successful because I think it's family television, grassroots television. You sit down with your family, you turn on the set, and it's your next door neighbor entertaining. And people just love that. They love to identify with what they see on television.
Here we go. All right, and in 3, 2.
Hello, my name is Jaime, and this is my impersonation of a low rider.
Take Jaime Arredondo. He says the people at work think he's a funny guy.
I work at Kelly Air Force Base, and I'm an inspector of the F-15s and 16s, believe it or not.
If you'd like to give it a shot, they'll be at Ingram Park Mall tomorrow, and then Sunday at Rolling Oaks Mall. The tapes will be reviewed in Los Angeles, and it may be that some of San Antonio's own will be among America's funniest people. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
I think you had to be there to appreciate some of those.
Well, Bob, the old hometown ain't what it used to be, as they say. Photographer Larry Burns, who is also from Laredo, and I found that out. Although free trade is not yet a done deal pending congressional approval, judging by what we saw, it's already been good for business in Laredo.
The International Bridge is no longer the only hub of activity in Laredo. Look at what's happening on its north side along I-35. New stores abound, the major chains as well as some San Antonio-owned companies.
Just how big a boom is Laredo experiencing? Just a year ago, they say this was nothing but a vacant lot filled with weeds.
The idea that free trade is coming eventually has just opened up the gates.
The new Toys R Us will open in plenty of time for Christmas, and there's a Best Buy going up next door. And they say Albertsons and JCPenney also are coming to town. And there's a Target Greatland that they say is bigger and better than anything in San Antonio, and it opens this weekend. And so why here? Why in Laredo, and why now?
Well, business dictates it. You can go in Laredo and you'll see most of the chains that are here are #1 in ranking.
It's estimated Mexican shoppers account for 2 out of every $3 spent here. They say it's a good sign Mexico's economy is stabilizing, as is the interest from Mexican investors.
And of course, there's the interest of the U.S. side, people that are now looking at Mexico as a customer, as a competitor, as a new market.
Tomorrow, free trade on wheels. A look at the trucking industry that transports the import-export goods that are valued at more than $500 million a year. San Antonio is vying for a part of that, Bob.
Now, if congressional approval doesn't happen, what happens to the big boom down there? Will it go away?
Well, they don't think so. In fact, they say that there's already enough international commerce existing there to sustain these size retail operations. So,
Thanks,
free
Jessie.
trade or not.
About 30.
Like that. Like these right here. Yeah, I'm proud to be.
Barely in their teens, most began associating with gang members even earlier in life. Nadine says she was 12 or 13.
One of my ex-boyfriends was involved in the gang also. And well, we just, he invited me somewhere like to a party or something. We just, from there.
The girls say that's how it usually starts.
Just to be cool or something, or just to hang around with them, or just to have friends.
Others say it is a matter of protection from other gangs.
Well, they back you up. They're there for you, and if you have a problem, they're going to help you.
But Veronica admits she and many other girls are taking a dangerous risk just associating with gang members.
It's fun a little bit, but in a way not, because when you're getting shot at, pretty much have to start running or something. Pray to God you don't get shot.
You never know, man. They could shoot you, and you never know. You could be walking in the streets, and you can get shot. And you never know what could happen to you.
Like this 15-year-old girl who was caught in the crossfire of a drive-by.
What did you think? What were you thinking?
Nothing. I was laughing.
That's because she says she's used to it. Already at risk, they say by actually joining a gang, others would be in danger.
It's only me, my grandpa, my brother, and my little nephew, so I don't want them to get hurt because of me.
But this middle school student says she'll still probably join the gang she's been hanging out with since she was 11.
I'm gonna put my family in danger, my own life in danger, my friends and stuff.
So then why do it?
Well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
And she also knows what could happen at the initiation.
In Crips, they either have to you, or you have to, beat somebody, or they'll rape you or something.
Mom reports that at times she doesn't leave the house and stays out for hours at a time, I guess.
Tomorrow, a desperate mother's dilemma. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
For many local NBA fans, it has been as big a part of Spurs games as a David Robinson slam dunk or a George Gervin jump shot. It is Hemisphere Arena, a building that has given San Antonio a unique home court advantage for the last 2 decades. Now the Spurs are moving across the street to the Alamo Dome. So one of our dedicated Spurs fans, photographer Larry Burns, decided to pay this tribute to the building the NBA fans know as just the arena.
It's going to be very sentimental. The Spurs have been here for 20 years.
Programs, gets programs, Spurs programs, Lucky Drawn programs.
I mean, we've got fans that have been following them since they were in the ABA. I mean, it's unreal. The people are very sad to see them go.
Programs, gets programs. Yeah, I'm going to miss it. It's a nice size. One place might be too big for me.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stan Kelly, and the Spurs welcome you, the world's greatest fans, to the noisiest arena in the NBA.
There's a lot of tradition and history here, but I look forward to the Dome, too. I think it's going to be nice.
Let's get busy.
San Antonio is a great sports town. We could use something like that will bring more people and more money into the city. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Oh, beer?
I like climbing the stairs because you meet different people. Best of all, we get to feed the pigeons. You don't have the season ticket holders up here, so you meet different people every game.
The spirit is here. The spirit is staying. It's the people. It's the people. You can have it outside. They'll still have the spirit. Sunny day, middle of July, spirit will be there. I'm sure.
They really would like to see them stay here and get a championship, but unfortunately they couldn't do it in the 20 years, so now we're going to go root for them over there at the Dome. And they will get one while they're there. I know it. I can feel it.
So much more than a building and so many memories. That is all for this edition of KSAT 12 News at Noon. Join us again tomorrow. Loving is next.
Their youthful enthusiasm was obvious. This busload carrying teenagers from St. Mark's, St. Luke's, St. Joseph's, Honey Creek, and other San Antonio area parishes is just one of 20 brought to Denver by the Archdiocese of San Antonio. To begin with, their pilgrimage was just to get to Mile High Stadium.
It looks like we're parking way downtown.
They finally reached their designated parking, more than 2 miles away. But they didn't mind considering how far they had come, like this group from St. Vincent de Paul.
He was in San Antonio, now we're coming to see him here. We drove 22 hours just to come.
20, yeah, without a shower.
Without a shower. 2 days.
No shower, 2 days.
Are we ready? Ready? Let's go.
But before they could get here, they had to raise thousands of dollars.
Car washes, barbecues, breakfasts, Las Vegas nights.
Yeah, bunch of
you name it, they did it.
It's a long walk.
That's worth it.
Although they came from different parishes, they shared in the excitement.
We don't get this opportunity very often. We get a bunch of Catholics, people we have something in common with, and we all get together and share the same faith.
To be with everybody, be one with everyone, just be close.
Although there were some provisions made for the deaf and hearing impaired, the dozen or so from San Antonio say there were not enough interpreters or enough reserved seating for them, like they'd been promised by event organizers.
It's not a little thing for us, but whenever, for the other people looking at it, you know, it's just one more thing to think about, but a very important thing, we think. I was feeling a little bit upset, and because we wanted to sit in the front because so the Pope can see the deaf there. We wanted the Pope to see that there were deaf there. We couldn't see. We couldn't see the Pope. We couldn't see over the people standing. People needed to sit because we need to be able to see.
They say they had to explain again and again why they needed to be close enough to see the interpreters and instead had to rely on their own.
On that first day, it was very frustrating, but we were finally able to get in, and being able to see the Pope was enough to solve all those problems. We forgot about earlier in the day.
The terrain is rough, I mean, obviously.
Amber Gorman also got to see some of the festivities.
Yeah, I'm from a distance. I mean, you know, on TV. It was, you know, still hard to see, but it was better than seeing the back of the stage.
Our archdiocese were there, but we were excluded, and I felt kind of disappointed about it. I mean, I was hoping that all of us could, we could all become one body in Christ.
Everybody grab a different bag. Let's go. We're going to walk down the hill.
Wait a minute.
Dominic, you want to open up her wheelchair?
Yeah. The other way, huh?
They are among the physically challenged and young people with special needs who say although they're happy to be here, they've been disappointed by the lack of proper facilities for them at World Youth Day and at the YMCA Camp of the Rockies, where the San Antonio Archdiocese group is staying. They were housed in a cabin without ramps or the kind of bathroom they need at the top of a hill that's already a tough climb. In effect, they say, isolating them.
They were observers, right? You could see it, but, you know, they weren't right in the middle of it, and they should have been. They should have been right in the middle of it. They should have been treated no differently than anybody else.
He's got the whole world in his hands.
Still, they say they have tried to make the best of it, celebrating their God at every opportunity.
Here we go. Claire, sweetheart. Claire, good morning. My name is Mark Kobrick. I'm a reporter for KUSA TV, Channel 9 in Denver, and you're live on my camera. Good morning.
Good morning.
This was how some San Antonio kids started their day at Cherry Creek State Park. They were among the sea of bodies huddled in sleeping bags, although a few tried camping just outside the park.
And like all of a sudden in the middle of the night, sprinklers came up and we got like soaking wet.
All the way to the back, this is all San Antonio, all the way almost to the back of this section right here.
Listening to the Pope because I can't see him.
Make sure you don't put my hat, dude.
We got here too late.
Their so-called guaranteed tickets for seating up front were useless against the masses. So some say San Antonio's papal visit was better organized.
They did everything number one when we had the Pope there. It was wonderful. They ought to have World Youth Day in San Antonio, right?
Most knew to come prepared, drinking plenty of water, protecting themselves against the heat that quickly replaced the early morning chill.
Just hang in there, buddy.
Photos would capture some memories,
All right.
but the rest would be keepsakes of the heart and spirit.
At first I was nervous because, I haven't been away from home, that much, and I don't know, I was gonna miss everybody, but I'm glad I came because now, it's brought me much closer to God and my friends, and I feel that I'm really gonna be blessed after all this.
It's gonna be kind of hard, but one way or another, everybody in this notebook, every address in this notebook is gonna get a letter back from me. Everybody.
It didn't matter if you were black, it didn't matter if you were white, it didn't matter if you were Hispanic, if you were from England, if you were from Mexico. We just came here for one reason.
First time I saw the Pope, I don't know, something just went through me, man.
He says he left gangs for God and he wishes that others would.
Just throw down the colors and just unite into one, man. That's all. Just believe in Jesus, man. Follow him. There's a lot more people here than gangs, man. Ain't nobody here starting nothing.
They really have turned their inside out, and I honestly feel that they're going to keep their inside on the outside, and they're going to wear their inside with pride.
The gospel must not be kept hidden because of fear, because of indifference. It was never meant to be hidden away in private.
It is Pope John Paul's prayer that the multitude be disciples, spreading the renewed spirit reborn at this week's gathering. At the papal site near Denver, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
For the United States, for Mexico, y para los dos Laredos.
The champagne was flowing at Laredo City Hall after watching the historic vote by the House of Representatives. The morning after,
63.
Exporters like this one that ships American-made heavy-duty truck parts into Mexico were just as ecstatic and relieved, especially after last week when the uncertainty over the free trade vote triggered a drop in the Mexican peso.
We are celebrating. Our assets went down 5% and came up 5% all in a matter of a week. We've already got people thinking about orders. People are thinking about 94. They're talking about capital expenditures, whereas 2 weeks ago, everybody's saying, wait.
They say 5 years of just free trade talk created 16,000 jobs in Laredo, where unemployment was 20+%. That's now down to a record low 7%.
We're hopeful that we'll continue to set those kind of records and keep employment moving. And those people who said there weren't jobs to be created, they don't have to go very far but come to Laredo and the other border communities and see the jobs that have been created out of this good trade.
But along with the bright prospects come harsh realities.
We're going to have to start running to try to catch up to where we should be right now. Our infrastructure is horrendous.
To try to handle the predicted 16,000 trucks a day, millions in state and federal dollars will be spent in widening a portion of I-35 entering Laredo, as well as the Mines Road near an expanding industrial park complex northwest of town. And to make up for the Solidarity Bridge that leads to nowhere in Mexico, talks are underway for a fourth international bridge much closer to customs facilities to divert trucks away from the city. But they say those projects are still 2 to 4 years away from completion. And now more than ever around here, time is money. At the International Bridge in Laredo, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
We can't believe this happened to someone like her. That's why we had to come here to make ourselves believe that she's gone.
I realized when I was watching the news all night long that it's not a fake, it's real. She's gone.
Like Selena, Valerie Segovia grew up in Molina, a working-class neighborhood where simple, heartfelt tributes adorned the fence surrounding the Tejano Star's home. A seemingly endless line of cars have been driving past Selena's house to pay their respects, along with the others who have come here. Among them, another neighbor who recalls Selena's urging young people to stay in school.
And so now I'm going to go back to school because I had dropped out, and I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to be somebody because she said I could do it. And now that she's gone, I'm going to do it even more for her.
They hope their presence here is of some comfort to Selena's family, like her husband, Chris Bettis, a member of her band who was understandably silent and subdued. Others embrace her fan of a lifetime, Selena's father and manager.
She never forgot where she came from. Selena was an artist del pueblo, the masses, la gente pobre.
If only the tape in Abraham Quintanilla's hands could mend their hearts, torn apart apparently at the hands of Yolanda Saldivar. Selena's father says they had confronted her recently about the theft of thousands of dollars from his daughter's fan club and chain of clothing boutiques.
She sat there cool as a cucumber. No emotion, never tried to deny anything, this and that.
But Quintanilla says they never suspected she'd do anything violent. He says Selena and her husband had gone to the Days Inn Thursday night because Saldivar was turning over some financial records. But Friday morning, Selena made the fatal mistake of returning there by herself to pick up missing bank statements.
I think she lured her over there. She already had plans. I mean, why would she have a gun?
Now, he says, she'll have to answer to the law and to God. Despite his heavy burden, Selena's father offered to show me her new recording studio, where she had just begun cutting songs for her first English crossover album.
Would you like to hear a piece out?
Yes, I would love to.
Late at night when all the world is sleeping, I stay up and think of you.
Her words pierced their already wounded souls. So full of promise, her strong, clear voice, tragically silenced by gunfire, will live on in her music.
'Cause I'm dreaming of you tonight till tomorrow. I'll be holding you tight.
I know that we'll surely miss her. I know the fans will miss her too.
And here in my room, dreaming about you and me.
In Corpus Christi, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Yes, we have officially changed our name.
We realized that we should be on the Rocket side and we should show it.
Our name is Spurs Busters.
And that's what we're going to do, bust the Spurs.
It was a radio call-in contest, and most of the suggestions were a bust.
Rusty Spurs was one. The Young and the Spurless was another.
But Susan Kotze says her patrons cheered the winning name, even though it meant breaking a tradition of sorts.
We're just giving legend to the tradition. We've been here longer than the Spurs have been in San Antonio. So actually, the Spurs organization in San Antonio probably owes us a licensing fee.
Rodman, with all your hair, you better beware.
Where else but the Spurs Tavern would they have a punching bag with Dennis Rodman and David Robinson? Not to mention a morbid symbol of what they say is inevitable. All in good fun, they say.
But we're serious, too.
Nothing, against the Spurs. Nothing against them at all, but I just don't think they would have got a taste to be the championship team.
And I'm not sure whether they'll be able to overcome some of their frustrations.
Well, since we have claimed the Alamo Dome as our own now, we will be the visiting team tomorrow night, so we know we'll win.
We were being bad-mouthed all over radio media because we were supposedly some cowards that wouldn't take a bet and show enough spirit for our home team.
We couldn't get them to bet. So I called a radio station in San Antonio and insulted the firemen over there a little.
That's how it started. They share a common number and a passion for their individual teams, but one already has a record for challenging other Station 19s around the country, and they have the T-shirts to prove it.
We've been undefeated so far betting on the Rockets.
If the Battle of the Road Warriors holds true, then we'll be playing Game 7 back here.
If we lose, we're going to have to run around the summit hollering, "We love the Spurs."
And if they do take it, then we'll support them and be behind them and be glad to run around singing, "I'm a Houston Rockets fan."
But they'll have to run around San Antonio's much larger sports venue, the Alamo Dome.
And I hope they can all make it around.
The C Shift has a motto that they say they actually wish on our San Antonio Spurs. It says, "Dine on danger, snack on pain."
Well, I wasn't worried when they were down 2-0, and they brought that back, and now they're just one game down. They were down 2, now they're only one game down. There's plenty of time left.
Two-thirds of Del Rio's population, an estimated 20,000 people, were doing more than making split-second pleas to save Laughlin Air Force Base. They were also asking black commissioners to save Del Rio from economic disaster.
Laughlin means a lot to us. We don't want it to close because if it does close, half of our community is going to go dead.
Those who work on the planes and around the base say they believe Laughlin's long history will endure. Pretty confident?
Pretty confident. I don't think they're going to close. No.
I'm confident it's going to stay open. Pretty much.
Laughlin has been around for more than 50 years. And they say it has dodged bullets before, thanks to its reputation and the flying conditions ideal for student pilots. It also has an award-winning civilian maintenance operation. They help pump nearly $135 million into the local economy, all facts for the commissioners to consider.
Every community gets to put their best foot forward and show us why their base has a military value that we ought to keep in mind, that'll let it float to the top.
People here say the black commissioners should have left knowing Laughlin has what it takes to not only survive, but absorb whatever pilot training facility is shut down. In Del Rio, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. So silent, only the wind speaks. So deserted, Nuestra Señora del Refugio is only a refuge now from the merciless summer heat. Yet it remains a spiritual refuge as well for the handful of families who still live in Guerrero Viejo.
Bueno, se siente uno un poco triste, ¿verdad?
Eulogio Mireles Hernandez says one feels a little sad to think of how it was then and how it is now after the waters came. The plaza with its gazebo and its ornate benches, schools, homes, and so much more. Most of the city was flooded after the U.S. and Mexican governments built Falcon Dam in 1953. But all you can see now is dry land. 40 feet below normal, Falcon Lake has been drained by irrigation demands in drought-stricken South Texas and portions of northern Mexico.
Progress has to go forward, and this was one of the sacrifices for that progress.
Joel Ruiz is a tour guide and history buff who remembers the first time he saw the sandstone remains of Guerrero Viejo.
It made my heart sick. To see such beautiful architecture, abandoned and in ruins.
Piles of rubble are all that remain of buildings that were still standing not that long ago, proof that water and time are taking their toll. And even here, the sandstone is scarred by graffiti, but there is still much to admire amidst the cactus and mesquite.
The arches, the workmanship, fine detail of the arches and the corners of the sandstone, all done by hand.
The cobblestone streets that once clattered with activity, and the water wells in the courtyards where perhaps people once reminisced about the past and dreamed about the future.
Nobody knew that at one time these would be ruins, rubble.
Realizing it may all be rubble soon, they say visitors are coming more frequently.
Hay gentes que vienen aquí, andan por decir todo el día, ¿no? Ya ves que está en la noche y no se quieren ir.
He says people spend the day, and when night falls, they don't want to leave. Once in Guerrero Viejo, you can understand why.
Many, many memories, very good memories, because this place was a very, very unique place. But as usual, we never know what we have until it's gone.
This is all that remains of Maria Salmon's birthright. To think the Hotel Flores was a major landmark in a city known for its commerce and trade up and down the Rio Grande. Built in 1871 and now barely standing, the Hotel Flores was once the center of social activity in Guerrero Viejo. It was where the elite often gathered for everything from coronations to weddings.
The bride and the groom would use this seat for that occasion.
She says it was filled with furniture imported from Europe. This once stately building had many lives. It was the family mansion built by Salmon's great-grandparents, wealthy Spaniards, Juan Manuel and Maria Eulalia Flores. They fled to the U.S., leaving it to Mexican revolutionaries, who are said to have used its walls for firing squads. Their home became a barracks.
Stories are told that the soldiers would slaughter pigs and animals on the grand piano.
The family returned after the revolution, transforming their home, left in shambles, into the Hotel Flores, its elegant rooms hiding places for a little girl.
When I would get upset with my mother, I would just go hide in one of those rooms, and they could never find me.
But Guerrero Viejo's seemingly idyllic existence came to an abrupt end with news a dam would be built, flooding almost everything here in 1953 and 54. Despite the fact Salmon's mother was remarried to one of the project engineers, she fought to save the city.
Went to Mexico City and spoke to the president of Mexico, and there was a committee that went and pleaded, but to no avail.
She says her mother did not stay to witness the outcome.
She didn't want to see it, no. She never went back.
And neither did Salmon until a few months ago.
And I went with a cousin of mine, and we both sat on some rocks and just cried.
A family's legacy lost, never to be regained. In Guerrero Viejo, Tamaulipas, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News. The comparison is obvious, but this 12-year-old bundle of energy and talent says she's becoming known for who she is.
I think they're starting to get to know me as Jennifer Peña and not as the next Selena.
The tragedy that stole her idol almost ended her own young career.
When Selena passed away, I didn't want to sing Tejano music anymore. I didn't want to sing it at all because I was so scared that if anything could happen to her at how high she was, then it could happen to anybody.
But with her parents' encouragement, the Corpus Christi honor student made a condolence music video for Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla. He signed her on because he says she has what he looks for in an artist: youth, talent, and more.
Charisma. Whether this person has that magnetic attraction.
On-stage chemistry between him and Selena is what clicked for Pete Astudillo of Laredo. Now a fast-rising star in his own right, he used to sing backup for Selena.
I was at one time on stage with Selena, you know, I was part of the Dinos. I mean, they're gonna go down in the history books, and I was part of that. It still amazes me that I am part of that.
Now he sings of her loss and that of his mother, who passed away over a year ago. Q Productions' only conjunto group, Lobo Cuatro from San Antonio, say it's an honor to have Quintanilla's backing.
The dream is starting to come true. Everybody, all four of us in the band have a dream, and we're all helping each other. And Mr. Q and the whole Q Production family is helping us get to where we want to be.
Will they all find this kind of stardom? Who knows? But Quintanilla and the others are certain of one thing: there will never be another Selena. In Corpus Christi, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
I like computers. I used to rip a lot of them off, work on them too.
Now they're a part of the classes he's required to attend while in the Bexar County Juvenile Detention Center.
I don't like school. It's never been for me, I guess. Just never liked it.
Picked up for auto theft, this 15-year-old isn't alone in his thinking around here.
They have fallen so far behind because they have been here several times. It's like a revolving door. And when they go back to school, they're so far behind, they feel, I'll never get caught up.
That's created a problem for the San Antonio Independent School District. Although not required by law, it's being haunted by its moral obligation to provide teachers for these students from all over Bexar County.
The school district really has made the effort to provide an education for these kids, and now they're suffering because of it.
The Texas Education Agency penalized SAISD because it found students here had contributed to a higher than average dropout rate among African Americans and Anglos. However, the district says TEA has now agreed to reconsider the penalty if it doesn't count those who've been deported by U.S. immigration or transferred to other youth or adult correctional facilities.
The school district hopes the revised figures will be ready for review by the Texas Education Agency within a week's time. Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.